What's up, guys, and welcome to Captain Mike's rigging station. We're out aboard our Mercury-powered Sea Hunter 41 CTS at the dock here today. Guys, are you struggling to find and catch big mutton snappers? Here in the Florida Keys, on the reefs, on the wrecks, are you struggling to catch these trophy fish? And we're not talking about the barely keepers, 16, 18-inch muttons, no. We're talking about the fish that are 30 inches, the trophies, are approaching, even exceeding 30 inches. And you're primarily gonna find these big muttons out on the wrecks. Are you gonna find them on the reefs as well? Absolutely, because they'll come in and out to feed. And of course, we all know the reef system here in the Keys is like Publix, there's just so much forage for the fish. But to really get dialed in on those bigger ones, we really prefer to fish that deeper water, anywhere from 150 to 250, just as a rule. Now understand, bait plays an absolutely vital role in successful mutton snapper fishing. And there is no better bait than a live pinfish. Now down here in the Keys, look, we use a lot of different baits. Ballyhoo is a close second, readily available, and a killer bait. Either a live, fresh dead, butterflied, a ballyhoo plug is just deadly effective. However, live pinfish are also readily available, even more so, and I'll tell you what, everything eats the live pinfish. Snappers, groupers, African pompano, pelagics, everything from the surface to the bottom will eat live pinfish. So it's an absolutely great bait, not only to target the bottom fish, but while you're wreck fishing, also put out some flat lines, okay? And you'll be surprised. Cobias, sailfish, even wahoo will eat a live pinfish up higher in the water column. Really, really deadly. How do we get our pinfish? We catch them. Certainly you can buy them. A lot of the local tackle shops sell them, $3 a pop or something like that. And for the amount of pinfish that we're going through on a typical day, a wreck fishing course, I'm gonna blow hundreds and hundreds of dollars on bait. But it's not only about the money, it's about the quality of the bait. The bait that you're gonna find at a tackle shop is typically beat up, it's been penned, it's been stored. I like to go out, catch it myself right before a trip, so I know I have the freshest bait possible. Our Mercury-powered Sea Hunter 41 CTS is equipped with 2 massive live wells right here in the transom, both over 50 gallons. So when we go out wreck fishing, I like to fill them both with bait. Every single time we drop a bait to the bottom, we fish it, we bring it back up. If it's beat up or not, comes off the hook, put a fresh one on, drop that one down. Because you never know when that one bait is gonna produce that one monster fish that could change everything. So the best bait is always highly recommended. How do we catch these pinfish? Look, there's a lot of ways. You can catch pinfish with a cast net, you can catch pinfish with a sabiki rig, you can catch pinfish with a tiny gold hook with a piece of shrimp or squid, but there's no better or more effective way than a pinfish trap. We typically will set 3 pinfish traps anywhere from 3 to 6 feet of water on healthy grass beds with moving water. That's the key ingredient right there. You've got to have healthy grass beds, and you've got to have some current or tidal flow to carry your chum, to carry that scent, and of course, to bring all of those pinfish to you and right into the trap. Now understand, there's some little nuances about these pinfish traps that are important to understand, okay, that are gonna help you catch more, all right, and in turn, the better quality bait you have and the more bait you have, the bigger fish you're gonna catch out there on the wrecks and on the reefs. For starters, look, this is a typical pinfish trap. It's just a square, okay, mesh square. This is your standard trap. You can purchase these at a variety of different locations here in the Keys. Call me. I'll also hook you up with a couple guys that make these, a couple of locals, and let me tell you something, they're deadly effective, okay, deadly effective. Expect to pay $100 per trap, fair price. A lot of craftsmanship, believe it or not, is going into this. There's different parts with all of the mesh, but I think more importantly, it's the time that went into fabricating this trap. Starts with little door right up on the top, this little doorway, and right inside there is where you're gonna put your chum. A typical frozen block of chum, single ground, double ground, doesn't matter. Do not bait your pinfish traps with fish racks, okay? That's gonna cause it's going to attract too much attention from snappers, crabs, eels, all of the stuff that you don't want that's going to scare the pinfish from going into the trap and deter the pinfish from going in. So try and avoid any sort of scraps. Instead, just use the chum. That really is going to be the most effective. How long do we let our pinfish traps fish or soak? That's what I like to call them. 24 hours, and I found that daylight hours are far more effective than low light hours. So I'll go out early in the morning, right at dawn, I'll set my 3 traps and I'll let them soak all day, overnight, pick them up the next morning. I'll always have more chum on the boat. If I didn't find any pinfish or the amount that I was looking for, I'll move the traps 100 yards, half a mile, 2 miles, just to a different area altogether. So I'll make sure that I've got enough chum to rebait them. I obviously don't want to come back and forth, okay? But typically by setting 3 traps, I'm going to catch as many pinfish as I need for the upcoming fishing course, usually a rec fishing course. Couple other things to keep in mind that are real important is inspect that latch that you use to close that chum door. Always inspect that, because if that happens to come open or break and that little door opens, as you deploy that pinfish trap, the block of chum is going to float up and out, and adios amigos. So all of the pinfish are going to follow the chum, and you're obviously not going to catch any bait. So always inspect that little latch right there. Now do the same for the doorway, the latch right up on top, where we actually get all of the pinfish and dump them all out right through that hatch, that latch we'll call it. And that has the same type of configuration, the same type of snap, so we always inspect that, okay? And I'm telling you, if you forget one of those 2 and you deploy that trap and that chum door opens or that top door opens, you're not going to have any bait in your trap when you go to pull it. So those are small little details, but they make a huge difference. Now, the trap typically has an entrance on 2 sides. Some traps will have entrances on 4 sides. I have found that the traps with 2 sides are just as effective. So don't think that you need a trap with entrances on each side. What is really important is trying to set that trap where the doorways, the entryways are in line with the moving water, with the current, okay? Otherwise, if the door's on the side, the chum is flowing, the pinfish swim up, they hit a dead end and they have to go around the side, and not all of them ultimately make it into the trap. So do your best to deploy that trap to where those entrance ways, like I said, are in that same direction as the tidal flow. Finally, your marker, okay? Look, we just have some commercial rope, buoy on the end, 10 feet, plenty, easy to handle, easy to grab, easy to pull back up onto the boat, okay? But you can mark these as inconspicuously or as obvious as you would like. I've done it all. Why? Because people steal them. It's a shame, but they do. Anglers will see a pinfish trap, they go, they pull it. Best case scenario, they open your trap and they pull all your bait out. And remember guys, the guys that are doing that, if you're watching this, karma's a bitch, you're not going to catch anything. So don't steal anybody's bait. Other guys will literally steal the entire trap. That's even worse, right? So sometimes guys will really try and hide these. They won't put any obvious floats. They might put a little piece of trash or a water bottle or a small piece of styrofoam just to kind of make it look like it's something floating in the water so it doesn't attract attention. And on the flip side of that is a full-on obvious buoy. Look, there's my trap. But it certainly doesn't look like a pinfish trap. It looks like a stone crab trap or a lobster trap. And most anglers usually will shy away from messing with commercial gear. So this has worked for me. I'll change the colors often so nobody gets dialed into where my traps are. I'll also move the traps often. If I'm in one area, I try not to clean out that entire area of bait. I'll move the traps and fish a different area. So don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to experiment in depths. Remember, like I said, 3 to 6 feet, but sometimes they're on the shallower side, sometimes on the deeper side. Seasonally, we tend to have the best pin fishing, okay, really wintertime or from fall through spring. In the summertime, you have the snapper migration and just not as many pinfish around, and we've got to go further up into the Gulf of Mexico to set the traps, okay? Sometimes as far as 10, 15 miles up there, especially to catch the smaller to medium pinfish that the mangrove snappers love. The muttons, on the other hand, these big trophy muttons that we talked about earlier, they like those pinfish that are about the size of your palm, okay? Those real nice ones. Finally, understand that these entrance ways are also, I'm going to call it adjustable. You can reach in there and close or open, narrow or widen that gap depending on the size of bait that you want to try and get into that trap. You usually don't have to make an adjustment because a variety of bait makes its way in there. But if you find that there's a lot of bigger baits around and you're not catching as many, maybe you want to open it up a little bit more. If, you know, it's totally up to you to experiment and make that call, okay? Look, it's such a vital ingredient. Okay, fresh bait is so important for tempting these big smart fish on these reefs and wrecks. I just can't stress it enough. Don't go out there using frozen squid, frozen ballyhoo, frozen anything. Okay, you guys know I'm totally against frozen bait. Put in the time, put in the effort, go out, catch the fresh bait, catch the live bait. Pinfish are incredibly easy to keep alive. You can put them in a pen right at your dock. As long as you feed them on a somewhat regular basis, they're gonna stay alive for weeks, if not months. Yeah, they'll be beat up the longer they are in the pen. They'll have red noses, they'll be chomping on each other's tails, but it'll still be a live bait that's really effective. I, on the other hand, I don't like to pen them for real long. I like to go out. I'm fortunate here in the middle Florida Keys, we have so much grass offshore that it's really not that challenging to catch the pinfish. It's just a matter of putting in the time, okay? Going out, setting the traps, getting some chum, obviously, catching the pinfish, bringing them back, penning them up, maintaining them. Might sound like a lot of work, but I'll tell you what, that's what's gonna separate the guys that are fishing the reef, catching 12-inch yellowtail, from the guys that are fishing the wrecks, catching 20-pound muttons. Okay, that's it right there at the end of the day. So look, if you need some additional information, if you're visiting the Keys, I don't care, Key Largo to Key West, pinfish are a staple. If you're not sure where to set your traps, if we didn't clarify it enough, I want to stress 3 to 6 feet. Healthy grass is a must, moving water is a must. You don't find them, move the traps the next time you set it. And eventually you'll find a honey hole. And when you find them once, I promise you, they will be there over and over and over, okay? Do it right, guys. Do it right, put in the time. At the end of the day, a trap is insignificant compared to the cost of your boat, fuel, time, and everything else that's associated with it. So it only makes sense to follow all of the steps from beginning to end. And it's incredibly rewarding to go out and catch a trophy fish on a beautiful live bait that you went out and caught yourself, okay? Just sweetens the pot altogether. So remember, catch up on all of these segments of Captain Mike's Rigging Station. Take away little bits and pieces across the board, regardless if they're filmed in our rigging station, out here on the boat, out on the water. And if you need any additional information, remember guys, as members of Florida Sport Fishing TV, you've got that membership benefit of a 24/7 fishing helpline. Call me anytime for any reason, and we'd be happy to point you in the right direction. So do it right, rig right, stay tight. I'll see you on the water.